Hello, this video will be presenting the basics of Google Drive. I'll be presenting this video as if I'm presenting it to colleagues who are unfamiliar with Google Drive and are just familiar with offline programs such as Microsoft Office. And I'm going to be explaining some of the upgrades and the advantages and disadvantages of Google Drive over those offline programs. So here to explain to everyone today about Google Drive. Google Drive is a great system as far as managing your lesson plans, managing your educational materials, your student data, and so forth. It makes things much more convenient than the old methods of potentially emailing lesson plans and data to yourself from between home and school, transporting data between home and school, via like HD cards, memory sticks, or just leaving your electronic data at home and just making do once you actually get to the classroom. Google Drive allows you to connect your home data, like any kind of work that you do at home, to your classroom computer. Makes it really really convenient, really really easy to access. It's a great way if you're afraid of losing data, based on you making lesson plans, making projects, and your computer crashes and your data is lost. With Google Drive, you don't have to worry about that, which can be a really, really big relief for many, many teachers and so forth. So it's also very easy to use, very, very friendly, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to get to know. So if you have a Gmail account, which I'm using my district email here, that's all you'll need to get a Google Drive. There's no cost to it, anything like that. You can purchase additional storage, but that's its own separate thing. I'm going to log in with my password. I've used Google Drive for the past 4 years, so you're going to see a lot of information here. So if there's a lot of things to unpack. I've got files down the bottom. They all seem fairly well random. It's because these are the ones I've accessed most recently. But there are more effective ways to organize your information here. Much like the same as your regular desktop, you can create folders, which I'm going to walk through how to do. If you go to where it says New, you got a bunch of different options. I can create another folder, again, just the same as I would on my desktop. Once I create that folder, I can actually upload files and upload folders from my computer. Anything that I might have done on my desktop, I can upload right to Google Drive. The transition isn't always perfect. That's mostly because I'm converting between Microsoft programs and Google programs, which I will talk about below here. But much of the conversion is manageable, and I would recommend though, for any kind of new material, if you're planning on using Google Drive, just do like whatever your materials are inside of Google Docs, inside Google Sheets, inside Google Slides. These are equivalents to the Microsoft Office programs. I've got Office, Excel, and PowerPoint, and these are probably the three you're going to be using the most often anyway. There are a couple of different Google options, like such as Google Forms, where that's actually useful for creating online quizzes, tests, surveys, and so forth for your students. It does makes grading and makes streamlining a lot easier, using the Google form. That's got no real equivalent outside of here. But so I do want to focus on the main three that you'll be using: Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. So I create a folder. I create a folder just before here called Sample Curriculum. I'll double click on that folder. Delete this for now. We'll get to it. So if the folder is empty, what you can do is you can upload a file or a folder from your desktop using the new option right there. You can also drag and drop your files in there, and they'll instantly upload. There is a storage limit, but it's a pretty big one. As you see, I've got 21 gigs used up right now, and I'm not even at the warning sign just yet. This is because I've got a lot of screencast videos on here from my video lessons I've done with my students. So imagine if we've got a unit that I want to upload to my sample curriculum. And as a matter of fact, I do have one. I'm going to upload a file called sample unit. So the upload speed, even though it's a very small file, as you see, the upload speed is generally really, really good as long as you have a good internet connection. Now it uploaded here. If you notice, it uploaded as a Microsoft Word document. What it's going to do is going to preview the document there, so it looks fine. Where it goes to open with, you've actually got a bunch of different options right here. You've got basically it's going to convert the Microsoft file into like the Google equivalent. So when I open this with Google Docs, this is going to convert the Microsoft Word document into a Google Doc. It takes a few seconds or so, and there it is. Again, not much to there, but what it basically allows you to do is even if you're making, if you've got old files under Microsoft Word, you can still upload them to your Google Drive and transfer them into a Google Doc. And for the most part, the conversion is pretty solid. There are some issues at times. You've got like kind of complex files and complex images going on there. Sometimes the conversion won't be neat. That's why I recommend if you're going to use Google Drive, start creating all of your assignments on Google Docs, on the Google Sheets, Google Slides, etc. That way you don't have to worry about converting between the old Microsoft programs and the Google programs. Okay, there are some equivalents too. I've got Lumen PDF. This will help you open up PDF files that you might upload onto there. It's got the same options as Adobe. Pretty good options for PDFs on there. Okay, so from there, what I can do is suppose I've got a sample unit and suppose I want to share it out with somebody else. In the outside of Google Drive, what you would have to do to share with another colleague, you would have to put it in an email and send it over to an email. That can cause its own issues. The file might be too big. There might not be a clean conversion. Your district's email filter might not accept it, and so forth. Google Drive actually has a really, really easy way to share out your information with your colleagues. You notice up here, I've got the person with the plus sign. This is the share option. I've also got the option right there, preview. So from here, now you do have to, this is restricted to people who just have Google Drive. So you won't be able to share this out with somebody who just has a Yahoo page. In my district, everybody across the board has a Gmail, so this is not an issue with me. So you could also get what's called a shareable link, and this is if I want to share this outside my district and so forth. I can copy the link and just put it into an email and people who might not be able to see it from my district will be able to have access to it. But the most common option to use is just tapping it on, and then what I do is I'm going to share this with me with one of my other Gmail accounts. It'll notify this Gmail account that I can share this right here, and I can actually put a message in there as well. Okay. I can also choose whether or not, depending upon, if I want to give the person I'm sharing this with, power to edit the document, I can choose that. I can if I just want them to be able to look at it but not be able to touch it or alter it in any way, I can just have them as a viewer. They can see the comments and suggestions, but they can't do anything to it. I could also have them as a commenter, which is, again, a little bit different than if you want to give them full-on editing privileges. So make sure that you're doing this safely, and then share it out. Now, my district is limiting me here, but ordinarily, say if you wanted to share this with somebody else in your district, the notification will come up, and then you'll be able to actually see the people that you actually get to share this with. Okay, so yeah, it makes it very easy to get your information across to your colleagues. You could also share these documents out. Again, say if your students have Gmail accounts in your district, just like ours do. You could also share documents out with your students as well. That does make it a little bit tricky because you want to make sure that that every student isn't able to edit the document. Maybe they can view it. Maybe it's just like some of the information you want to get across to them, but you can share it out with student accounts as well. Okay, so there's also something called shared drives. If you're This is more on the district level, but say if you want to create a drive that only certain people have access to. For example, this is the Algebra 1 shared drive from my district. All the math teachers in my high school have access to this. There's some of their different algebra worksheets. This is produced by some of my colleagues, and this is basically here so that anybody in the pool has access to it. It looks very similar to your own Google Drive. It's got files, it's got folders, but only a certain number of people have access to it. and you can change the administrator could also alter which people might have access to this. Okay, at the bottom here, or in the middle, I should say, where it says shared with me, these are documents that have been shared out with someone from the so other parts of your building, the people who have shared documents with you. For example, one of my colleagues shared out the scope and sequence for the Algebra 1B class that we'll be teaching next year. I can open that up from here. These documents don't appear in your drive. They do appear separately. I can make my own copy myself if I go to File, and if I go make a copy, I can choose where this is going to go. So I can make a copy of this on my own drive, and just like with a regular computer, I can actually go and choose which folder it's placed in. So I'm going to put this in my sample curriculum folder. I'm going to put it alongside there. I'm going to delete the copy of part of that. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to give it a few seconds. Okay, now this document is a part of my drive. I don't have to worry about going to the shared with me portion there. This is recommended just because the shared with me documents can get, if you notice, there's not as much organization here. I don't have I've got a couple of folders that were shared with me, but they don't necessarily appear in the same way here. I'm basically getting just a whole mishmash of documents kind of all there without too much rhyme or reason, for documents that were shared out. It's organized here just by how recently the documents were shared with me. So that's why I would highly recommend, if you've got a really big document that somebody shares with you, make sure that you have got to that you make your own copy of it in your drive, just to make it a bit easier to find. I'm going to try this one again. The pacing calendar for math. Again, I'm going to make a copy. Eliminate that. Go into my drive. Once again, I'm going to go to sample curriculum and then select and OK. This will now make a copy that I can use at my convenience. I can alter it at my convenience as well. This will also help if you've gotten like a document that can't be edited. The editing privileges can change once you make your own copy of it. Okay. Just the same with regular computers. You've got kind of like a quick access. You've got documents that you accessed the most recently, as you see here. I've got the trash bin, which, as you see here, some of my old videos. And you can empty the trash just like you would your regular desktop computer. Do that, just free up some space a little bit. And there we go. Okay, so in short, the Google Drive is basically basically a desktop that's online, and you can basically access it from anywhere you've got an internet connection and so forth. So if you use this in your district, like mine does, you will more than likely have some filters on there that might interfere with the process a little bit. It might make sharing outside the district difficult, especially if you want to share something with you from your school account to your home account, for example. So there are some disadvantages to it. You can also, the good thing about this is, so for example, if I go into the students' work right here, the good thing about this is with Google Docs and with Google Sheets and with Google Slides, you don't have to worry about saving progress and potentially losing data if power goes out or your computer crashes. Now, the kind of the disadvantage of that is, suppose I made a change to a document, and then suppose I needed to, I realized a couple of days later that was a mistake. I need to go back and redo that section. Well, since Google is updated in real time, how can I go back to that original document? What we can do is, notice how here says the last edit was 4 days ago. Click on where it says Open Version History. This can take me back from July 9th all the way back to May 26th. This is when the student first did the assignment. May 22nd is when the assignment was first shared out with me, or with the student, I should say. So you'll be able to actually go back and retrieve old versions of things, even though and I can actually go and restore this version if I chose. So again, that's kind of a way of working around how Google updates live. So if you're worried about potentially losing data or not being able to go back to previous forms of data because everything is updated live, that's a way that you could go about doing it. I could also share documents from whatever document I'm creating. If I just go to share, once again, the email pops up. I've got myself on there, I've got the student on there, and I can get the shareable link as well. And again, Google Docs and Google Sheets and Google Slides function pretty much the same as their Microsoft counterparts. If you're familiar with Docs, if you're familiar with Sheets, and if you're familiar, or I'm sorry, if you're familiar with Microsoft Office products, then doing it the Google version of it should not be much of an issue for you. The file option does have a couple different ways as well. What I can do is I can still share, just like I can do with the button up top. I can make a copy of the file if I just want to for whatever reason, I want to create some changes that are different from the original. Google Drive will allow you to actually go back and kind of reverse the reverse of what we saw in the beginning. If I say I want to download this onto my desktop computer, I can download this Google Doc as a Word document. Again, for the most part, conversions can be tricky, especially if you've got here when you've got charts, you've got photos. Some of the spacing might be off, some of the formatting might be off a little bit. So make sure you're double checking whatever documents you download, just to make sure that they match up with the original. You can straight up email us as an attachment if you're having issues sharing offline, which is potentially possible. You can move it to different parts of your drive. You can print it. You can adjust the language if you'd like, especially if you want to use it in conjunction with Google Translate. And it's got much the same options as you would see in a typical Microsoft Word program. So all in all, with practice, the Google Drive does a lot of really, really great things. Again, it should be of this has really taken the place of my home PC in terms of where I do my lesson planning at. I do everything on the drive now. That way I can have access to it at any time from whatever computer I log in at. I don't have to worry about, whether certain bits of data are on my home computer or on my school computer. I don't have to worry about carrying around memory sticks or HD cards that could break, get lost, or get the data corrupted. And much of the tasks and much of the format of the drive should be very, very similar to your home PC. I hope this video was useful for you, and best of luck using your Google Drive.